call the City of Victoria Planning Commission to order, please. If you've got your cell phones or any medical devices, if you would silence them, please. We have any public speakers that want to address us? Minutes? Have you all looked over the minutes? You see any changes need to be made? They look good? We have a motion?
So moved.
Second?
Go ahead.
Motion, all in favor?
Aye.
Mary Ann. Citizens communication. Anybody in the audience would like to address the Planning Commission? If you would go up to the podium and mic and state your name and address. Not seeing any, we will move on to development reviews.
Good afternoon. The first order we have is the approval of preliminary plat for Aloe Landing and the final plat approval of Aloe Landing Phase 1. Aloe Landing is a proposed preliminary plat of 19.53 acres. The subject property is bound by Duck Drive and White Wing Drive, located north of the intersection of Business 59 and Zacklins Parkway in the city's extraterritorial jurisdiction. The property is undeveloped and is being platted into 28 manufactured home residential lots and 1 manufactured home park. Lot within blocks 1, 2, and 3. Development of Aloe Landing shall be completed in 3 phases. The proposed plat will dedicate 60 feet of right-of-way required for the construction and extension of 4 local streets: Duck Drive, White Wing Drive, Chaparral Drive, and Grouse Road. Access to the subdivision will be provided via local streets: Bob White Road, Duck Drive, White Wing Drive, Chaparral Drive, Grouse Road. The final plat, Aloe Landing Phase 1, is a proposed final plat of 9.422 acres. The subject property is bound by Duck Drive and White Wing Drive, located north of the intersection of Business 59 and Zacklins Parkway in the city's extraterritorial jurisdiction. The property is undeveloped and being platted into 11 manufactured home residential lots and 1 manufactured home park lot within blocks 2 and 3. The proposed plat will dedicate 60 feet of right-of-way required for the construction and extension of water. For the preliminary plat will be provided by Quail Creek Municipality Utility District by an 8 in Duck Drive and loop back around White Ring Drive to an existing 8-inch main on Chaparral Drive. The sewer will be provided by Quail Creek Municipal Utility District, proposed by an 8-inch sanitary sewer main and the proposed utility easement at the rear of lots 2 through 13, Block 2, and lots 1 through 10 on Block 3 that connect to an existing main located on Grouse and Chaparral Drive. The streets are Bob White Road, it's an existing local street with 60 feet of right-of-way. Chaparral Drive, which is a proposed local street with the 60-foot right-of-way. Duck Drive is a proposed local street with 60 feet of right-of-way. Grouse Road, a proposed local street with 60 feet of right-of-way. Turkey Lane is an existing local street with 60 feet of right-of-way. White Wing Drive, proposed local street, will have 60 feet of right-of-way. Drainage will follow the natural contours of the land to the existing roadside ditches in Duck Drive, Chaparral Drive, Grouse Road, and White Wing Drive. For the final plat, water service is provided by Quail Creek Municipality Utility District by the proposed 8-inch water main in Duck Drive to the existing 8-inch main in Chaparral Drive. Sanitary sewer will be provided by Quail Creek Municipality Utility District by a proposed 8-inch sanitary sewer main and the proposed utility easement in the rear of lots 2 through 7 on Block 2 and lots 1 through 5 in Block 3 that connect into an existing main located between Grouse Road and Chaparral Drive. Chaparral Drive is the existing local street currently with 60 feet of right-of-way. Duck Drive will be a proposed local street with 60 feet of right-of-way. Grouse Road is an existing local street with 60 feet of right-of-way. Turkey Lane is an existing local street with 60 feet of right-of-way. Drainage will follow the natural contours of the land to the existing roadside ditches in Duck Drive, Chaparral Drive, and Grouse Road. The subdivision and development ordinance requires construction plans when public improvements are proposed. These plans are submitted at the time of the final plat submittal and must be approved prior to Planning Commission's approval of the plat. The construction plans for the proposed public improvements have been reviewed by the Public Works Department and have been approved as of Tuesday, June 18th. The proposed staff recommends that the proposed preliminary and final plat are in compliance with the minimum requirements for manufactured home parks and residential development contained within the subdivision and development regulations. Staff recommends approval for the preliminary plat of Aloe Landing and the final plat of Aloe Landing Phase 1, finding that they meet all applicable ordinance and guidelines.
Thank you.
I had a question. I know this has come up twice before that I can recall. And I was looking for my history on this. We denied something here some time ago, and I can't recall what it was. Ring a bell for anybody? No? Okay.
Would you like to approach the podium, please?
Public hearing, do you want to open the public hearing for the preliminary plat?
Yes, we will open the hearing for the preliminary plat. State your name and address, please.
My name's Craig Lawrence, and my address is 400 Warehouse Road. I own that manufacturing facility just south of that. And the problem that they had the last time was the road to the west of it. On the west side. It was undeveloped, and they didn't want, see, I own part of that road, and I don't know if I have to do what I have to do to keep people off of it so I won't be liable for any accidents or if something occurs on that stretch of road.
What road? Is this one of the Chaparral? What's the name of the road, or is it?
It's the one on the west side right next to Safety Railroad.
It's not one of the ones that
It's
were
not in
cited?
yellow. It's not in yellow right now. It's just, I'm not real sure what the name of that road is, but
Yes, sir.
see that little white building?
Right here.
Yep. And that road just next to it, right there. I own part of that road up to where that yellow line starts. From there,
From there to there?
yes. And I don't know if it's going to create a problem, if I've got to block it off or what I have to do to keep people off of it. Because right now I don't have a fence on that part of my property. It's just in that, around where those, that square is.
So are people accessing your property to get to the other property?
Yeah, they have been, but I think they blocked that off back over there towards where that, on the other, right there, so they can't drive up and down that part.
So this is a private road, is what you're saying?
Yeah, I own that road, yes, ma'am.
Well,
But I know they denied it. I was here the last time that this came up, and they denied it because of that.
I
that
remember
road
now it
right
was
there.
a road issue. I think it was a road issue. That, and I know it was I can
Yeah,
recall.
that the road was not in compliance?
Yeah, I
or-
think that was it, wasn't it? The roads were just gonna be left as is, and
That's what I thought.
There
Are-
a variance attached to it, perhaps?
I don't, maybe, perhaps.
Right now, for this request, there are no variances. The construction plans do meet all of our applicable
Well, look-
regulations. They are proposing to
Thank you.
build the road as required.
Okay, I think that would be my question then. They have to meet city standards for the roads, or is it, or is this come under a rural road? Only have to meet rural road requirements, or?
We have a separate rural standard for the ETJ, but it does have a special standard that has to be followed.
Is that part of any of the construction plans that were approved by Public Works?
Yes.
I guess the quality of the road they're going to
Yes.
build?
Yes, it's water, sewer, and the roadways.
Okay.
But now if people want to access the proposed area, then they'll have that duck drive, though, that they can access the site. And it seems like there's enough ingress and egress without having to go through the private road,
Right.
right?
So there's nothing that would affect you. It's just concern of people traveling through your property to get to it, or,
Well, I just don't want to have somebody have a wreck on it and then sue me.
right?
Unfortunately, I don't think that's anything we can.
Sorry.
I can't
Yeah,
remember.
I mean, I don't think that's really within our purview in terms of approving the plat or not.
No,
Maybe but I mean, it's not part of the plat.
no, it's,
At all.
no.
Who can we refer him to speak with about whether or not he should block off and those things, but still move forward with this?
Yeah, just put a barrier on your property.
The
On what his
county-
rights and
The county
abilities are.
commissioner to find out exactly the status of the roads, whether they've been dedicated in the past or they're completely private, or if they've been dedicated to public but not accepted by the county. I mean, there could be a lot of different legal instances of how those roads came to be out there. And so I think the county commissioner could probably assist him the most.
Okay, but we don't, with your professional experience either, that none of that should interfere with what we're doing today, say we do or don't approve,
Right.
et cetera.
So this proposal does meet all of the regulations. This site will have access from improved public roads. There will be improved public roads within the development. So you would have to offer a reason to deny the plat, and
There's really none.
Right.
staff believes that they meet all of the ordinances and rules that are in place. So we recommend approval.
Mr. Lawrence, have you met with your county
Yes.
commissioner out there about this? You may want
Do
to,
you know who he, I mean, I don't know who that,
I think it's Gary.
Gary Burns,
Gary Burns.
yeah.
Be that
That way,
area.
that would get you a little more information, what you're concerned with, I believe. So, okay, well, I appreciate it. Thank you very much.
yes, sir. Okay.
Being that it meets our criteria, I move that we approve the preliminary and final.
I second the motion.
All right, do we have any discussion? All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you.
Our next item on the agenda is the variance for Shoppa's Farm Supply. They are requesting a variance for section 21-100A, B, C, off-street storage requirements, and section 21-94C, the surface requirements. The subject property is developed as a retail farm supply and parts warehouse. Its original site was a 5.5 acre tract of land located at 8906 US Highway 59 North, being part of the Lloyd Shoppa Subdivision Number 1. The property is owned by Christopher A. Shoppa. Mr. Shoppa would like to add a 7,000 square foot expansion to his parts warehouse. The city code will require the expansion to be represented on a site plan. The site plan cannot issue any, the city cannot issue any building permits nor a certificate of occupancy until the new development is developed according to an approved site plan on file with the city. A site plan to expand the parts warehouse for Shoppa's Farm Supply has been submitted to the city, but has not been approved, as it shows a display of inventory area for motor-driven vehicles and equipment on an unpaved surface. A variance to the city's code regarding paving and screening fence requirements for display and storage areas of motor vehicles, equipment, and/or materials has been requested. The property was developed as a retail farm supply and parts warehouse in 2010. Shapa's Farm Supply site plan established off-street parking with the temporary sales building on the property on the 2010 site plan. There were no display or storage areas shown. In 2011, a site plan was submitted to the city for the development of the permanent sales showroom and parts warehouse. The site plan also included a future outside storage area, future shop area, and proposed warehouse for tractor and lawnmower parts. The future outside storage area shown was to be a 50-foot by 40-foot area on a pad site. No other display area or storage areas were shown on the site plan. In 2012, a site plan was submitted to the city expanding the main existing building to include a mechanic shop, the current location of the covered outdoor sales area, covered wash rack, and additional parking required by the expansion. They also listed a proposed second driveway to the property. No other display or storage areas were shown on the site plan. The property was developed as shown on the site plan except for the second driveway. In 2014, Shapa submitted an amended site plan to the city indicating a change in location to the second proposed driveway to the property. This was to only amend the driveway location to the approved 2012 site plan. No new display or storage areas were shown on the amended site plan. Currently, another site plan has been submitted to the city for review. The site plan shows to expand the parts warehouse by 7,000 square feet. Before any building permits can be obtained, an approved site plan must be on file with the city. The site plan indicates the display and storage areas of the property. At the time the property was developed, the requirements pertaining to off-street storage and display of motor-driven equipment was rather stringent. The city changed its off-street storage requirements outlined in Section 21-100 A through C in January of 2016. Prior to the city amending Section 21-100, the regulation stated, at the time any building, use, or structure is instituted, erected, enlarged, or converted from one land use to another land use, which utilizes outside space for the storage or display of motor vehicles, equipment, or materials, off-street storage facilities shall be provided in accordance with these regulations. Such areas shall be provided in order that such vehicles, equipment, or materials may be displayed, stored, without encroaching on public right-of-way or interfering with the public use of streets, alleys, fire lanes, and sidewalks. All off-street storage facilities to be used for the storage or display of motor vehicles or other motor-driven equipment, including access aisles, driveways, and maneuvering areas, shall meet the surfacing and drainage requirements in Section 21-94C and 21-94F. For off-street storage facilities to be used for storage or display of materials or non-motor-driven equipment, the surfacing requirement may be reduced or waived, provided the driveway approaches from the right-of-way to the storage yard are paved. The reduction or waiver of any such surfacing requirement is subject to the approval of the Director of Development Service. It is unclear why the 2010, 2011, 2012, and 2014 site plans were approved without more thorough review of the off-street storage and display areas on the property. The personnel that were responsible for administering the off-street storage and display requirements at the time are no longer a part of the Development Services staff. However, the off-street storage requirements were amended in 2016. Section 21-100 A through C were amended as followed. At the time that any building, use, or structure is instituted, erected, enlarged, or converted from one land use to another land use, which utilizes outside space for the storage of display or motor vehicles, equipment, or materials, off-street storage facilities shall be provided in accordance with these regulations. Such areas shall be provided in order that such vehicles, equipment, and materials may be displayed or stored without encroaching on public right-of-way or interfering with the public use of the streets, alleys, fire lanes, sidewalks, or required off-street parking areas. All off-street storage facilities to be used for the display of equipment, materials, motor vehicles, or other motor-driven equipment, including access aisles, driveways, and maneuvering areas shall meet the surfacing and drainage requirements in section 21-94C and 21-94F. For off-street storage facilities to be used for the storage of equipment, materials, motor vehicles, or other motor-driven equipment, the surfacing requirements may be reduced or waived, provided the driveways and approaches from the right-of-way to the storage yard are paved. The storage areas are located behind the principal structure. The storage areas are not located within the required setbacks, and the storage areas are screened from the public right-of-way by a minimum 8-foot tall screening fence. Alternative screening materials are subject to the approval of the Director of Development Services. This change relaxed the requirement for motor-driven vehicles and equipment always be located on paved surfaces, and instead allows the motor-driven equipment to be located on unpaved surfaces, provided the equipment is behind the screening fence, meeting certain local requirements. The surfacing and drainage requirement referenced in this section prohibits any motor-driven vehicles or equipment from being parked or stored on an unimproved surface. The current display
Can we ask a question? Should we wait till we finish?
The current display and storage areas shown on the submitted site plan are non-compliant with the city code since motor-driven equipment is located on unpaved surfaces and are not located behind screening fences. In order to proceed with the expansion, the site approval is contingent upon all regulations being complied with or a variance granted to the regulations. To meet the regulations outlined in section 21-100, the applicant would need to pave a display area or provide an inventory area on an unpaved surface located behind a required screening fence or the combination of the two, or alternatively be granted a variance. This business has staff recommends this business has regularly expanded since its original development in 2010. The city had multiple opportunities to require compliance with regulations set forth in Chapter 21. Unfortunately, those opportunities were not taken, and the site has grown to be considerably out of compliance. The amendment to Section 21-100 in 2016 sets the expectations that portions of the properties with roadway frontage in the community be paved. As this area is primarily used for display area, staff recommends denying the variance, requesting this frontage to not be paved as the property is generally rectangular and has similar topographical features as most of the city and therefore does not have special or unique features, making this regulation unfeasible. However, staff does support a variance to the screening fence standard required of any off-street storage yards, finding that the unique business of tractor sales does require visibility of off-street goods stored. Additionally, approving a limited variance would not be out of character with the industrial nature of Highway 59 corridor. In summary, staff recommends a partial approval of the variance requested. Staff recommends that any display area located in the front 25-foot setback be paved, but a variance be granted for the required screening fence in any inventory or storage yard areas located behind the 25-foot setback.
I have a question. Okay. The statement, additionally approving a limited variance would not be out of character with the industrial nature. Well, what's the intent of that?
I'm sorry.
If you look at the development conditions along 59, you will find that there are a lot of industrial type developments with such as storage buildings with laydown yards and that, you know, oil field service companies, other tractor supply type companies that have, you know, a traditional metal warehouse industrial type building with a limited amount of pavement in the front and then a large area in the rear that is typically for laydown yards and is unpaved with or improved with some sort of gravel.
Okay. All right. And then I just want to be clear on this. So there were multiple opportunities for this site to come into compliance, and the city never pushed. Okay?
Can I ask this, though? Because the way I read some of that was that when it was amended in 16, it added some of the things like the right-of-way things, and so, you know, it's kind of a little bit of, it's a little bit of the rule change, it's a little bit of other things, too. It almost seems like. Is that?
Yeah, the 2016 ordinance amendment came about because the old rule of requiring everything to be paved, if it was motor-driven, was a regular pushback we received from developers in the community, not just for this type of business, but for any type of business that required some sort of lay-down yard or storage yard for a fleet, for example. And so that's when we brought to the commission the recommendation that, yes, storage yards do have their place, but as far as what we want our city to look like, we made the recommendation, and ultimately council approved that those yards be behind screening fences and out of the setbacks.
Well, didn't we do something similar on the tractor place on Main Street and everything, where we didn't make them pave it in back, where they store the tractors and stuff?
Right.
You know, instead of
Kind of a
requiring them to
partial
concrete
variance
it,
thing.
What, the
yeah.
Kubota place?
Mhm.
Well, the Kubota place is paved.
In the,
Not completely.
well, in
No,
the
not in the
front,
back.
in that
They
setback.
grew
Right.
in the
It's just
back,
in the
we didn't
front.
require them to pave it. You know, that's a lot of expense,
I
concrete.
No, I understand. But what we're asking now is just this first 25 feet, as I see it.
Correct.
And where would that be on, is this the proposed plat, the 2018?
So if you will see where in the sort of the middle area, you have that large unpaved inventory area. Where that starts is approximately, yes, between the property line and where Mr. Atkinson has his laser pointer. That's about a distance of 25 feet. So, you know, on the highway and from the frontage roads, you know,
That's what I don't understand.
going through the community, you know, you see that first paved area, if they choose to pave it and put display there. Otherwise, the equipment, if he sets it farther back.
But this
could
looks to
be-
me like it's way back, I mean, way back behind any 25-foot. Well, according to where this is on here, here's
That's
the highway.
The red outline is the
2016
addition.
one, that's not the current
No.
one. I
Oh,
don't think
It's,
what
the red
you're looking
outline is
at.
the addition.
Oh, okay, because it says 2018 on
No,
here.
that's 2018, you're right, but this is where they're expanding,
Right,
so. And so I guess.
but
we're
what do
talking
they
about
mean about
here.
the front 25-foot setback up here?
Yeah,
That seems kind of silly to me, but.
Well, I think the way it is, to do what they want to do, even though it's nothing to do with the first 25 feet, they have to come into compliance with,
And they are, I drove by there, and I do believe that there is equipment in that first 25 feet. Is that correct?
there is.
Correct, there
Right,
is.
and it's small, kind of multi-use type stuff. It's not big tractors and things. It's things that would, I think, be okay there with paved. So, and it would be aesthetically a benefit as well.
And like you said, they've had opportunity to come into compliance, and since the regulations have become less stringent over the past couple of years, this is even better time to come into compliance.
I really think that the partial variance is a really good solution for the type of business that they are and for the aesthetics of the highway. And it's still a highway, so, I mean, I really think it's a good solution.
This variance does require a public hearing, if you want to go ahead and open the public hearing.
Yeah, I would like to open the public hearing, and that way, if y'all would like to speak, to give us some insight, please state your name and your address, please.
Yes, my name's Eric Burr. I'm General Manager of Shoppa Farm Supply. We have 8 locations here on the Texas Gulf Coast, and we are very excited about being in Victoria ever since that we purchased the property and expanded to what we exist of today, mainly being a retail-friendly farm equipment dealership, which deals with everything from consumer equipment, lawnmowers, all the way up to the large ag equipment. Our facility is visited tremendously by all types of people, and we just want to have a retail-friendly business, and it's important to try to have the proper display when people drive by. And as you see, on our property and what we're displaying, we kind of take proud of being everything in line and order and not just trying to have it hodgepodge out there. And with that, the 25-foot setback, where the fence is, it gets it back to around where the large sign is up there. And so, that's valuable property there. And the way we stage the equipment, the smaller stuff up front next to the fence, first of all, there's a fence there. So, there's a kind of a dividing line there. But the way we stage things, the setback, it's not in view of any safety hazard when you exit the facility. You can get out to the road, safely enter the road. And, with these, just the tires and things like that on concrete, these tires are not designed to be on hard surfaces, and there will be excessive wear on brand new equipment sitting on concrete. And that's just like when you get ready to go purchase a vehicle or something like that, you want it to still look new, and moving the equipment on concrete will show excessive tire wear, and you'll sure question if those are still new tires on that equipment after moving it a little bit on concrete. The 25-foot setback,
So are you saying if you concrete to 25 feet, you're going to have to move all of your equipment back 25 feet? You're not going to set it on the concrete?
that's kind of, what the reason that it's not concrete today.
Are any of the other 8 locations, do you have equipment on concrete? None.
Can you speak to what equipment you have in that setback right now?
Yes, we have utility vehicles, which are low profile, which are normally less than 48 inches tall. And then we have small compact utility tractors, the one for the weekender people to utilize. And those are normally probably 5 foot at best height. So we have a good aesthetics when it comes to view and vision that we feel like is important as far as marketing the product that makes it attractive for people to come purchase from us and purchase in the city of Victoria, resulting in heavy equipment tax that is paid to the county for anything over 1,500 pounds in weight. So there's a tax there, even though it's ag exempt. The ag exempt people still pay some type of tax. And then, of course, the sales tax itself.
So would you be asking for a variance to not pave the 25 feet?
That would be my preference.
But it seems like even if you pave those 25 feet, you still have so much space where you can still put the equipment that you said shouldn't be on the concrete. I mean, I'm having a hard time believing that every piece of equipment out there cannot be on concrete. Surely some of it can be, maybe not most of it, but I would just think that you would have opportunity to have your equipment on concrete or not on concrete, and that would be your call.
Well, I think the mindset there, ma'am, is the type of equipment. Mm-hmm. It's the industry. Mm-hmm. If you were walking up to a luxury car dealership, you would expect to probably have it on some type of nice surface. But in the clientele and the industrial that we have, they're used to walking on grass and kicking a little dirt on the tires and so forth and so on.
I don't see a downside to leaving it dirt or grass.
Well, now, we're interested in aesthetics. Mm-hmm. So I drive by and I see 25 feet deep of concrete beside the road. And then beyond that, I see a nice semi-paved gravel, light-colored gravel area where equipment is normally parked. It looks nice. It's neat. What difference does it make to me if there's 25 feet of concrete there or not? If it matters to the tractor dealer for the care and wear of his tractor tires, why not give him the consideration?
I guess.
We have heavy equipment, and I specifically tell my employees, you know, you do not drive off-road equipment on the pavement. You stay off it as much as you possibly can. So I think his request is quite reasonable.
But isn't there a difference between driving it on there and storing it on there? It's not like you're having like point loads on the tire treads that are, you know, with the rigidity of the concrete, that's going to be an issue on the storage side.
Well,
And there's
it's-
nothing
the
that makes
difference-
this a tractor dealership forever, and a variance would attach with
And
the property.
how do
That's
you
a consideration I
rationalize
have.
this? I mean, Kubota has equipment on concrete. If you go by the Kubota dealership,
My grandparents store their combines in sheds with concrete
yes.
floors.
But those are used, ma'am.
Hmm?
Those are used.
Yeah.
They've already got
Mm-hmm.
the new war off of them.
By the way, I'd point out that Kubota Distributorship was a Honda dealer before it was a tractor dealer.
True.
So that has already been paved long before they showed up. Now, the difference between putting a tractor tire on hard surface or on a soft surface is like you going home and going to sleep on a concrete bed. It does the same thing to the tire because the forces are concentrated on those large ribs as opposed to the tire sitting a little bit lower and spreading the weight across the tire. You know, we have this kind of equipment, so I'm familiar with what he's talking about.
No, that makes
And
sense.
just the, you know, you take a new piece of equipment and you test drive it a little bit to ride and drive for the customer and their steering, the tires on the concrete. And you do that 3 or 4 times and this week and 3 or 4 times next week. And all of a sudden, the next person comes up and says, oh, that tire doesn't look new. It looks like it's got some wear on it. So
Well,
then all of a sudden,
I guess I don't see where the burden is that you could store that elsewhere where people will see it. If you're storing, if it's like a large combine or something, you know, there are the different types of equipment on the list. Those are types of things that people will still see from the highway right there. Or if it's clientele that are going their specific purpose, they're going to walk into it and look at it and see that there in the unpaved area.
well, I think that one thing that we as a John Deere dealership are faced with from John Deere corporate is the display. It has to be nice,
It does
looks
look
nice, and we get graded on it and scored on it. And, you know, when we're not utilizing all the space that we have to display their equipment, our equipment, we might be at a little shortfall there.
What is the surface what is the surface in the,
It is
right now?
it is manicured carpet grass.
Okay. And you basically keep it that way?
Oh,
Water
definitely.
it and,
Yeah, it looks good.
no, I mean, I've been by there. I mean, I
You know,
personally,
I will understand, you know, what decision y'all make. I have to live with it, but I appreciate the opportunity to share our view with it, and thank you.
Does
All
he
right,
know?
thank you very much.
You can appeal our decision, whatever that, if it's not in your favor, I don't know if you know that, you can always go to city council with it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Well, I mean, our decisions have been appealed in the past. and
They have.
Some have, some have been successful and some haven't, so.
All right. Does anybody?
Well, I would go back to aesthetics and industry standards. What they're doing looks good.
Yeah.
And it looks like tractor dealers I normally see around the state. They keep their area very neat. They
Oh,
keep
yeah,
the
it
weeds
shows
down,
pride
they
of
keep it
ownership.
looking nice. It's an attractive place for me to go and consider buying a tractor.
You know, and interestingly, Julia made a point that there's nothing that necessarily ties this to, you know, being this forever. It could be something else that would require the frontage. But if something else did come in there
They're
and
gonna
they
have to have a new site
expanded,
plan.
then they would come back to us and we could require it for those people in the
they're
future.
gonna have to have a new site plan. if
Yeah,
they
they'd have
come
to have
in
a new
and
site
change it-
plan. And
change it
so
up.
if it did have is that not the case? That's my
Not
question.
necessarily.
Not necessarily.
they
A
didn't do it
site plan would
certain-
only be triggered if they were expanding.
To a certain percentage, et cetera.
Yeah, changing the facility in some way.
I think that, I really do think that the partial variance is a really good solution, because I think that the frontage, I think that their aesthetics would benefit from the pavement as well, but that's just my opinion. I think it still gives them plenty of gravel to use for large tractors and things like that. It's really not a huge area, but I don't know.
I have nothing more to add.
Well, I will move to approve the partial variance for the 25
I
foot.
second. Do we have to do it separate, or can we just say it like that, a partial variance? Or,
Want me to state
Yeah,
it all?
as staff recommended.
Right.
yes.
Have any discussion?
Later.
Oh,
Only problem I
Yes, sir.
have.
Excuse me. Would y'all please explain the partial variance as far as the 25 feet? So the way I understand it is that we'll be able to continue parking equipment up front as long as it's 25 feet. The first 25 feet from the property line must be vacant.
Yes,
Or
so,
paved.
yes, the,
Or paved.
from the property line to 25 feet, if they choose to park any equipment, it would have to be on a paved surface. If they choose not to park any, and
Not
leave
gonna
that
have to pave
area
it.
completely
Don't have to.
vacant, then it wouldn't have to be paved. But however, no equipment should ever be parked on grass. It should be all, on some sort of improved surface. So
Gravel
it would be
or-
gravel, and that gravel could start 25 feet back. Normally, that would be required to have a screening fence once it was back out of the setbacks, but in this case, the variance recommendation is that there be no screening fence. So then
So could they use, could they have 25 feet paved that they store things on and then have grass behind that they park on? They park
Gravel.
equipment on? Gravel, I mean, sorry.
Yeah, I thought it was gravel. It looked
That lot
gravelly to
there,
me.
Is that right? If they wanted
Yes.
to do that in this lot, they could do that, but why, I mean, why would they? They have a setback already. But that would be an example of where they have gravel from here back. Here is paved, but they're parking here in the grass in the setback. Right? Is that
Right.
right? Okay.
yes.
So the way I understand the variance is up front where the grass is more than 25 feet. That we'll be able to set back from 25 feet from the property line and then still park on the grass.
No, you would have to improve it with gravel.
That's what we're saying.
This seems
Either
completely
not
illogical
park
to
in
me.
it- He
So
can either
now-
not park in it at all, or pave it, or gravel it, and then park in it.
Yeah, because the recommendation is that any display areas located in the front 25-foot setback be paved, not putting gravel behind the 25 feet.
Well,
At
there's.
least that's not the way I'm reading
There's
it.
another
question.
section of code that requires that anything that is any motorized equipment not be parked on grass. And that's, I don't,
That's not being
don't like
addressed
that.
here, if that's the
yeah,
case.
that's not
I don't
being
like that.
addressed. That would be a separate
They need to have an
variance
opportunity to
too.
park
I mean,
on
I guess the
grass.
thing I was gonna say is, before the motion was made, I'd rather we take a vote on granting the variance straight up first. If that fails, then consider what the alternatives might be. Because like, the way the motion is out there now, if I wanted to vote against the partial variance, it'd be like I was against it, but in fact, I'm personally in favor of granting the variance, period.
Wait, there's two
I
variances
would be in
here.
Yeah, there's
favor of.
two.
There's two of them. One is to abolish the fencing, and then one is to require 25 feet of pavement or setback 25 feet.
I mean, I think we should grant both variances, personally. I just, in this situation, I think it's just, you're robbing Peter to pay Paul, and not for any real reason.
Correct.
Correct.
If this was Main Street, or if we were, in downtown Victoria, or we were in a new area of town, I think it'd be different. But I mean, that's an industrial area, period.
Right.
But
And
we're
then
the-
this place looks so much nicer than a lot of the other places you pass by there. I'm sorry.
Yeah, but we should be looking toward growth and aesthetics and the community on the whole. We can't discount
they
that
are
just because it's
growing.
not on Main Street. Oh, they are, absolutely. And they've had opportunities to have this item addressed, and it hasn't been,
And the city didn't do it.
yeah.
Well, I guess as it stands right now, we have a motion and a second, so I guess we have to vote. Is that right?
Did I make a substitute motion?
Sure.
But I'm still not
Still
clear
unclear.
on.
I agree. I don't
if-
think
if
your
y'all-
issue is
If y'all
addressed.
pass it, what restrictions will we have?
You would park back, or you would pave forward, or gravel
But
forward?
he's saying this isn't addressing gravel past the 25 foot,
Well, you
and
would
it's not.
meet code by, yes? You would look at the code book and address.
I don't know. I'm
This
not
is a
there yet.
situ-
I'm still trying to find a middle
So-
ground
so
because I
if-
think.
so
This
if
is a
we're gonna-
situation, this is a situation where the code is completely impractical to the application.
For
It's
this,
as simple as that. It doesn't work.
It was written specifically for off-site storage, off-street storage. That is what the application
This
is.
is
I mean,
an
there's car
agricultural-
dealerships, but it talks about, this is for storing equipment, and it's not like this is reinventing the wheel.
Do we need to discuss what a setback, I mean, it's, because the purpose of a setback, I don't want to speak to that, but you guys maybe can, a lot better than I can.
So the purpose of the setback is, again, it's rooted in community aesthetics and making sure that there's a good line of sight when you're driving down a road. That's why you have reduced setbacks in highly urbanized areas like downtown. And then the industry standard, so to speak, in planning is a 25-foot setback. Sometimes it can be a little bit closer in residential areas, or in rural areas, for example, like ranchettes, you expect a much larger sort of established setback, and sometimes that's where you'll see the 40. So it sort of really, setback traditionally dictates the character of an area. So by recommending that they pave the front 25 foot of the setback, if they are choosing to put tractors or equipment or display area there, is to provide that aesthetic look as you drive down the Highway 59 corridor.
Yes, sir.
Just one side question is, y'all do realize that our large sign is within the 25 feet.
Say that
Okay.
again?
Right
I
now.
didn't hear you.
their sign.
Their sign.
Oh, the sign.
The sign
So,
basis.
Okay.
so if y'all approve the setback, our sign's gonna be in the right spot?
I would assume that's
I don't see how that would
grandfather.
affect the sign at
The
all.
sign
I
can
think
be
you just
located
said
anywhere.
the right word, Mr. Hayek.
Grandfather.
That's kind of what I'm looking for this whole deal.
That's about the most practical way to solve this problem. The code just doesn't fit the application. It's that simple. And nobody driving down the highway is going to give a flip whether there's 25 feet of concrete there or not. What they're going to care about is that they look over there, they just see a nice, neat agricultural tractor operation, like the way you maintain it and that you want to maintain it that way, and that John Deere probably makes you maintain it that way. Because I know how these corporations work. They're very concerned about how the Toyota distributorship
Representation.
looks and how the GM distributorship looks. And John Deere's concerned about their aesthetics. They want to sell tractors. So they don't want something that looks bad.
Could we not do what Mary Ann said and just vote on the full variance first to see how we go forward?
Not right now, we can't, correct?
Unless you withdraw your motion.
I can withdraw my motion.
Do you want to withdraw your motion?
Sure.
Okay.
Pressure.
No peer pressure.
And I
Well,
move that
it's
we
not
approve,
funny,
I move that we approve both variances, both for the
And I second.
25-foot setback as well
Can
as
we,
the.
rather than before, but it's been seconded, but could we vote for them separately? That would be a good way to tackle that.
I guess it's up to us how we want to do this, right?
Then we could really kind of.
So let's take one at a time. Is everybody okay with that?
Okay, so is one actually withdrawn and and there's a new one on the table or what?
She's withdrawn.
Okay, so
But
now we
right now, there's a
have,
motion and a second to do both,
right.
but
I'll withdraw that and I'll make a motion to approve. I guess. it
How
would
about
be-
the setback variance? Do you want to just say it that way, or, I'm sorry, Mary
Yeah,
Ann.
that's fine,
You-
to
you
approve the
please.
setback
I'm
variance.
sorry. Ma'am?
That would be number one, I guess. Because there are two separate variances, right?
Julie, we're like, can we do this, what we're
one is
proposing?
for the setback and one is for like the screening,
The screening,
fencing,
correct.
and,
The way I read it, it was.
right? That's what I
Yes,
think too.
Yes.
yes.
So. when
One's
we-
for the
So-
screen and one's for the setback, if we can, want to do it like that. Right? variance of section,
So B requires that all off-street storage facilities be used for the display, must meet the surfacing requirements. And then C requires that it be out of the setback and with the screening fence. If you
So my
wanted to
first
grow-
motion would be to approve the variance to B.
Okay, wait,
Right.
let me find.
That'd be
So
the,
you would be, you're making a motion to approve no paving
within the 25-foot
with,
setback.
would be for the entire site.
Wait. say
All
that again?
off-street storage facilities to be used for the display of equipment, materials, motor vehicles, other motor-driven equipment, including the aisles, driveways, and maneuvering areas shall meet the surfacing and drainage requirements.
So it truly is a partial variance to,
So you don't really
One.
need C,
okay,
because C says that if you are not going to pave the areas,
Then you have to screen it.
then you have to screen them.
So all
and
we need
take
is the
them-
one,
Yes.
the variance to B.
Can I ask you one more question? You said that the building setbacks are for like visibility and stuff for vehicles driving. What difference would it make if it's paved and they put equipment there? Then you don't have that visibility, you know? So it's not, I'm trying to reconcile my thoughts on the trigger and why it's necessary to have it paved. And I was thinking for aesthetics, you know, and that conversation has been happening, and I'm toying with the idea that maybe it's not super pertinent there. But for like driving and stuff, if there's equipment there, then they're not gonna be able to see it anyway, so.
So the size of the yard gives you an idea of the character of an area. So if you can visualize walking down Main Street and you have, you know, the buildings on both sides are set on the property line. And you imagine, you know, just driving down a very big industrial open area like this, you know, you have your setbacks that sort of vary, although the minimum is always 25. So if you're visualizing, you know, we have a lot of rules related to parking and surfacing and gravel and, you know, driveways and things. So, for example, a very common regulation in a lot of your urban areas is for a hedge to be located in front of all of the parking requirements, so that parking lots, so that you're not screening the big box stores in the parking lots, but you're screening the tires of the vehicles as you're driving down. So the rationale of that front 25 feet is the same. You're not necessarily notice. You see the big tractors in the back, and you'll see, you know, yes, if you're looking, you see the gravel, but as you're just generally driving down that road, your first impression and visual is of, you know, a paved parking area with their display.
all right. Well,
Suppose we can make motions and stuff. I'm just, I feel like now that I have this other point of view and Michael's point of view, I feel like there's more to digest, but maybe that's just me.
So, back to the motion.
Yeah, I made the motion to approve the variance to B, I guess is what is on the table,
And I
which would
second.
be the only one we'd have to approve.
Correct.
So moved.
So second.
All right. We've had plenty of discussion. All those in favor, aye.
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 Opposed?
oppose.
2 opposed. 3, sorry.
4-3.
3-4, y'all,
Bill, John, Julia.
5-3.
Oh, the Jays.
All the J's.
So,
The motion carries.
Motion carries. Thank you. Thank you.
thank y'all. What you got what you wanted.
All right, would you explain to what y'all just approved?
You can keep doing what you're doing, provided
Oh,
city
yeah.
council
Yeah.
approves what this will carry to council. and
Yes,
then-
and they'll
and
make
then
the
you can keep
final
doing what-
approval.
So we will need to, we can park on the grass as long as it's 25 feet from the property line.
No, you can park right where you are right now.
Yeah.
And
you're good
do
where
what
you
you're
are
doing right now.
Leave it
If
just like it
city
is.
council approves this, you
It-
just keep
yes.
doing
City
that
council
City
approves the
council will have to
variance.
approve
and
it.
do your addition.
You're good where you are.
Thank y'all.
You'll
Yes,
need
sir.
to go
Those
lobby
pretty
over
tidy
there.
spots, the way it looks now, looks nice.
No.
We don't need a screening fence.
No.
No.
No, don't ask us too much about change.
Go with Richie.
You might want to get out now.
We're gonna change it.
All righty, y'all take care.
Appreciate it.
No, 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 no,
Here.
no.
Thank you.
It made us think.
No,
Thank
be
you.
At
careful.
least it wasn't a billboard.
We haven't had anything good to talk about in a
Yeah,
while,
yeah.
so it was fun.
That wore me out.
Okay, the last item we have tonight is proposed revisions to our ordinance, specifically to a few chapters. Chapter 21, which is our subdivision and development ordinance. We are recommending adding a new division addressing design districts, and then as well as some amendments to Chapter 5, our signs, and Chapter 12, our manufactured homes. So as you are probably aware, the city is developing a new road called Placido Benavides that will connect the eastern end of Glasgow and connect over to Salem Road and open up a large area behind the Victoria Mall and near Ethel Lee Tracy Park in the New Salem Crossing neighborhood for development. The city, in the design of this Placido Benavides, is designing a higher level roadway. It's actually going to be a boulevard section, although only one portion of the boulevard or half of the boulevard will be constructed at this time, as well as it'll be of concrete, and we will be burying all of the utilities underground, including electric, and selecting a specific street light for this area. So with this very large public investment in Placido Benavides, we are recommending that the commission recommend to council the creation of a design district. So what is a design district?
Design?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
DESIGN.
So we are recommending the creation of the Placido Benavides Design District, which is intended to raise the level of quality for development within a specific area. The proposed area, and these design districts could be created in the future in other areas. Right now, we are recommending the Placido Benavides Design District, but it is, as I said, to raise the level of quality in the quality of development within a specific area. So the big requirements, and I'll just kind of go through what we are proposing for the requirements in the design district, is that the utilities be all located underground. Currently, within subdivisions, utilities are already required to be buried. So what this means is that it would not just be the utilities serving a specific neighborhood, but it would also be the feeder utilities that the utility companies would bring to a subdivision before, and then of course in the subdivision they would have to be underground. So this would be all utilities in the design district would be required to be located underground. And then the streetlights that we are choosing for the Placido Benavides corridor would then also need to be carried out throughout the entire district. The next section that we are recommending is the off-street storage and display, and I think our variance makes this a little bit easier for me to explain. So as you just were made aware, any off-street storage and display that is not paved would have to be located behind a screening fence. In this design district, we are not recommending that caveat. So basically, if there were to be any lay-down yards, they would completely have to be paved. And it's not that, we don't have land use regulations in the city. We have design specifications, basically. And so the idea is that there are better places suited for that sort of industrial area than this Placido Benavides Design District. And so by heightening that level of design, hopefully those types of businesses will be located in places that are more suitable. The other portion that we are recommending, or part of the code that we're recommending tweaking for this design district, is the landscaping. Right now, if you are developing a commercial site, you are required to provide a minimum amount of open space and landscaping. And within that amount that you have to provide, you receive credit for up to 10% of landscaping the right-of-way. And so this section would take away that 10% allowance of the right-of-way. So you still have to sod the right-of-way if you disturb it as part of your construction, but you would not be allowed to take any credits for that area in the right-of-way. So we require a little bit more open space within the commercial development. The other recommendations for the design district is to prohibit billboards and then also limit the signage to a monument-type sign where these signs would not be supported by a pole, or poles have to be on a solid appearing base with a height of 10 feet, and that would be throughout the district. And then the last recommended change for this special area would be the prohibition of manufactured homes and industrialized housing. Currently, we have those rules for historic districts, and so this would expand that to not just historic districts, but also the Placido Benavides Design District.
I like the idea, actually.
I do too.
I like it.
Are y'all going to go out with public hearings on this or something?
There's a public hearing tonight, and then with city council, it would be an ordinance change. So
Right.
yes, there would be additional public hearings.
How did you arrive at the border of this area?
There are only, I believe, 4 property owners in this area. These are very large tracts, and our city management office has had conversations with several of those large tract owners, and we don't believe that they have plans on developing this property themselves, but instead selling it to developers. And so it just sort of made a logical sense of how much land this Placido Benavides roadway would open up for development, and then carrying the the standards to the maximum. Once you get past where we are proposing the line, you would need to add in another sort of arterial type roadway to continue to serve all that area to the very far north.
Has every single property owner been notified of this?
We have not done any special one-on-one notifications for the design district.
Don't you think that should be done before something like this is attempted?
We can make a point to let them know before city council.
I think they should have a right to say something about how their property is going to be controlled by the government.
I think that we all have the right to have a area that has higher quality development, and I don't see how this would inhibit their land. I think if anything, it would bring up the value of their land because it has a higher quality development associated with it and standards.
The resale value of their land is nothing but improved then, absolutely.
Nothing what, Julie?
But
Improving.
improved.
It would be,
I mean,
yeah,
when
good-
you can only develop it in certain ways and you know what your neighbor's doing and you know, that's a benefit to resale.
And it's not like anyone's saying, you can't do a certain land use here except for manufactured housing, but, you could do commercial, residential, anything. So they can still sell the property, as with any of those types of things.
So with the wonders of Photoshop, we have a few examples of what an underground design district could look like. I also want to note that a lot of this came about actually with some recent legislation that the state passed last fall, and the city went ahead and adopted in our right-of-way management ordinance, and it's referred to the small node ordinance. And the state has passed legislation that requires the cities to allow cell companies to put these small cells, which can actually be up to the size of a small refrigerator, within the right-of-way. We can only regulate those in certain ways, and the city has chosen to do that. But by adopting an area as a design district, we can further regulate those type of small cells. We will probably see our first one somewhere off of Guy Grant. So in the next few months, if you want to know what I'm talking about, drive over by HEB and you'll see sort of what I'm talking about. And I think in a lot of this larger areas, you're starting to see them pop up, but there's, again, a lot of visual.
What? A small cell? I have no clue what that is. I guess we'll find out in a
very-
few months, huh?
It's equipment that's not so small that now can be placed in the right of way to boost, cellular networks. So by designating as a design district, it would also allow us to further regulate those small cells. So with the wonders of Photoshop, we have given you a few visuals of what an area could look like without
Telephone pole.
the overhead lines and having a lower signage requirement.
We'd actually have a pretty city.
Yeah.
That would look nice.
That's the truth.
If any of the property owners currently are using that for farming and ranching, would making this a design district and having these design standards inhibit their ability to continue doing what they're doing?
No, of course not, because they're all development regulations. So until they choose to develop their property.
Yeah.
And
what I
also,
thought.
I noticed that there's a fairly large area that you're showing in this proposed design district that's not in the city limits yet.
Right, so subdivision regulations do apply, so
ETJ,
the requirement that the utilities be buried and the
Would
specific
still be
light
applicable.
would, but the other things would not necessarily be applicable. The signage requirements can carry over into the ETJ though, as well. But yes, the other things, you are absolutely correct, would not apply until such time they became a part of the city.
Right.
This is Salem, isn't it?
I don't know.
Where the
I am so
corridor-
clueless on where
John is
this road
curious.
is.
Which
Where the
one?
blue
This
line
is
runs
Navarro.
out.
Oh, you know where Glasgow is at
Oh.
Navarro?
Wait,
But
are we
where it
talking about
runs-
these pictures, or are we
No.
talking about the map?
Where the
big
blue
speedy
line
stop
runs out
is.
on the map, is that
gonna go
Salem?
straight
That's
across.
Salem.
Right.
Yes.
That's what I thought. I told him Salem, but I wanted to make sure.
Yes, so you will see the new Salem Crossing subdivision that was
Right by
approved.
Walmart.
Right,
The dead end at Walmart will no longer be a dead end.
right, between Walmart and Lowe's,
it will
where that
extend-
homeless camp was.
Yeah, or it still is.
It will extend from Walmart.
bulldozing.
It will cut the edge of Ethel Lee Tracy Park, and then it will come out by the new subdivision in Salem Road and that new subdivision Salem Crossing.
Why is that triangle left out right there?
Really developed already.
Yes.
Is that Cimarron? No, that's.
Right.
Oh, no, that's Salem Crossing.
It doesn't have any frontage on the Placido Benavides corridor, and so we did not believe it fit the
Yeah,
character.
that makes sense. Doesn't have frontage
Yeah.
on that road.
Where's the line? Okay.
Yeah,
I'll be long gone before I see all
have faith.
It'll just make that Glasgow intersection horrible. It's already bad.
So my only question is, I think it's something worth trying. I really do. I think it's got really great benefits. However, if we did not see the positive development results that we expected, it's not something that we could not change at some point.
Right, I mean, city
as-
council always has the prerogative to change ordinances.
Very good. That's my only issue.
I would move to approve the amendments to the city code to create the design district.
I'll second.
We do need a public hearing on
Oh,
this.
just kidding.
Do we open the public hearing?
I think we're safe.
On the agenda.
There's no public to hear.
Hey,
Is there?
Public. All right. Motion, second,
I second.
There was a second.
yeah. Oh, any more discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
was that really an agenda item?
Seems
It's
like
on
it.
the agenda as a discussion.
I think she's trying to slip one on us, but that's, good job.
The ordinance.
It was an
what?
agenda
The design-
item.
The design district. was.
D3.
So the,
Change the ordinance to allow design districts? Is that what we're doing?
yes.
Okay.
And these are ordinance amendments that do have to go to council for final approval. The next item we have is discussion regarding potential future amendments to Article 2, Division 2, Section 21-54E of Chapter 21, which is our section that discusses sidewalks. So we had sent a Excel spreadsheet of various cities' triggers. We were asked by council to have a discussion on when we should require sidewalks, what threshold. Right now, our code requires anytime you have to do a site plan, you are required to bring that site up into compliance. And so if no sidewalks are on the site, then they would need to be shown on the site plan in order to get a building permit and then constructed before a CO it could be issued. And a site plan is triggered at any time there is new off-street parking or a new building or addition. So we had a little bit more discussion with the council member that requested this, and we do think that this is something that our UDO committee can tackle as far as the nitty-gritty fine details, but it wouldn't, I think, be, it could be very beneficial to those sitting on that committee if we had a discussion of what the commission sort of thinks or believes is a fair trigger for sidewalks, or when y'all would like to see sidewalks required.
Can you speak to what it is now versus the ones that were sent?
So most of the other cities require it at the time of platting. But even the ones, there's a lot of them that when they do require platting, if, say, something was platted many years ago prior to that, their rules of triggering at platting, they do have sort of the back door of allowing or requiring them at the same, pretty much it's very similar to what we do currently with anytime there's a site plan. And we require a site plan with new off-street parking and an expansion or new building.
Sure, I
Seems like our code is good. I mean, and
Right.
people can request variances, so, and we've seen that.
Do we know what triggered council submitting this to us? Do we know what?
I think it's just the discussion of what is the level of fairness. An example is if, say, for example, the mall wanted to do a small addition. Now, they actually don't have a lot of frontage, even though you would imagine they do because of all the out parcels. But imagine that those out parcels were all one part, a development of that size. And if they were going to do a small addition, does the commission believe that that's the time we should ask for complete compliance and full sidewalks, or should there, be a baby step, or, what would be an appropriate threshold?
Well, the only thing that I see happens now is in some places it's spotty. Because you can just, along Main Street, like anything that's been redone in recently, you'll have sections of sidewalk and then you'll have big sections that don't have anything. So it looks a little funny to me that way. And like in my own neighborhood, we live on a Leisure Lane in Fairway, which has no curb and gutter. It literally looks like a little old country road. And we had someone do a fairly large expansion. And now we have 2 blocks of sidewalk and curb and gutter. And it's the only place on the whole loop. It's kind of funny, but I guess you have to start somewhere.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Well, we have a sidewalk ordinance, but we deal with the situations as they arise.
As they come.
I don't know how else you could do it.
Yeah, I don't either.
You
Well,
could
I
create a
mean,
lot
if
more
you-
complex verbiage and just create more confusion.
Well, some of these require a sidewalk, no ifs, ands, or buts.
So council is asking us to look at and possibly revise what we have via the committee or via the commission.
The committee would make a recommendation.
I think it would be best if we take it to the committee to find the actual,
Some do.
details of what the language states, but I
realize
think
that.
direction to the committee would be helpful. Even if that direction is, no, we have a fairly good ordinance,
That's my direction. I think we do. And I think taking it case by case is all we can do, like Michael said. I agree with that.
Where we are now.
That's where we are now, and that's as far as we can ever really get. I mean,
Right.
if
That's
we
what
need to
we're
make
here for.
exception, otherwise we enforce. I mean, I don't know.
I will add that I think our city is not a pretty city, and I think we should try and improve it. And so I would be for any stricter requirement with respect to sidewalks.
Agreed.
This is a related but not question. Wasn't there something that went to the Planning Commission a couple of years ago on like financial contributions towards sidewalks to fill in the gaps, like Marion mentioned. What happened with that? What was it?
What was
We
that?
tried
I
to budget
can-
some money to get some
You will
completed.
see, I believe it's the city of Mission actually has that, and I know Brian
They
has.
talk about it, yeah.
That it's a fee in lieu of, and I think the research needs to be done, and I think that that's something that, again, we should probably explore at the UDO committee, as far as how do we track it so that a property does not have to pay more than once for the fee in lieu of, I think was the issue.
So I can
So-
describe to you exactly what happened. The concept was, there was a sense of unfairness about granting someone, a property owner, a waiver, and then requiring somebody else to put in a sidewalk. And so the remedy was suggested that, well, if we grant you a waiver, we'll collect a fee. And the fee turns out to be equal to the price of the cost of the sidewalk. Okay, well, what happens to the money? Well, we're going to take that and put it into a special account that's in that city councilman's district. Well, then the problem shows up that you've got the city councilman using the money for the sidewalk to get votes. It becomes politicized.
What
And then the
happened?
situation also arises, and I brought this up, that if you pay the fee and you get the waiver, because it's really impractical to put a sidewalk there, but things change and the property owner 5 or 8 years later decides, hey, I would really like to have a sidewalk here. What does he do? Call the city? And the response was, the money's been spent.
We already spent it.
So it's not practical at all.
What happened was, in this forum, we had some unsurety about how it would happen if a property that geographically could not, that sidewalks could geographically not be placed on, you would collect the fee, but then what would happen if that were to get redeveloped in the future? Would you collect the fee again? Was that fair? And so rather than tabling it, which we probably should have done in hindsight, and asking for some clarity, we denied it. It was really based on just the unsurety.
Hard to get a handle
So
on.
I don't know that this forum would have been against it necessarily, but not knowing what would happen in the cases of a developer that was redeveloping a property that you just could physically not put sidewalks on, which is rare in Victoria, but possible. That was really the hinge pin of why it was denied.
The
I
reason
would
asked was
really
'cause I
like to see a nice, neat, clean, perfect world where all the streets were paved and curb and guttered and sidewalk and everything. But unfortunately, it's just not that way.
I was just asking because I saw it on the mission item and was wondering if that was something that anyone had.
It would be worth
brought up for
trying again
discussion.
with some
Yeah.
more clarity. I guess it's my thoughts on it.
Is that clear as mud, Julie?
No, I think I have a fairly good idea that, we'll, again, of course, I don't know if y'all are aware, but we have recently sort of brought our Unified Development Committee back to life. It's comprised of Greg Spears, Marianne Wyatt, and Jill Trevino, and so we will, as well as 2 city council members, so we will continue to meet and flesh out these different sections of our code, and we won't bring the entire thing back to the Planning Commission. We will, I think, get a little farther along and bring it back in chunks. So we will probably be having some work sessions in the fall or winter. I'm going to skip, if you don't mind, Celeste's development report and go on to numbers 3 and 4, and then sit down and let her come back up. But you all should have received an email from me about the Texas Open Meetings Act's training. It is very important that y'all complete that training and turn your certificate into me or the city secretary, so that we can make sure that
Y'all
everyone.
done it? I didn't see a way to get the certificate, but
I've done it.
you did it?
Yeah.
Is it pretty easy to get the certificate out of it?
I did it so long ago, I don't
Okay.
remember.
I believe the certificate should just pop up when you're
Okay.
when
Yeah.
you finish it.
Okay.
How often are we supposed? We're supposed to do this once a year, or
Just once.
just once? Okay.
Just once. And then we do have our American Planning Association Texas Chapter 2018 conference coming up. It's, I believe, October 12th through the 14th in Galveston. The early registration opens July 1st. So if you are interested in attending, we always try and send a few commissioners. It's a really great training opportunity. If you are interested in attending, please let me know ASAP. So,
I've been, it was good.
and with that, I'll let Celeste present the development report.
Okay, for the month of May, we had 2 minor plats and 1 major plat and 1 site plan submitted. We currently have 1 city council action going, and it is still pending.
Actually approved last night, or Tuesday night, the Harbor Freight variance.
Our building permits are still above normal from last year. We are still showing steady growth in the numbers. Any questions?
Nope.
I think we've crammed 1 year's worth of meetings in the one, yeah.
At least the last
Oh,
few
my
months.
goodness.
This was fun. We should do it
Yeah,
again.
this is-
Dogs are gonna be going, where's my dinner?
In July.
Oh, all righty. Does anybody have anything else?
I do not.
We are adjourned. Thank y'all. Very good.
Thank
Good
you.
job.
That was a long one.
All right.